All right, welcome back. We're now going to do a VOD review. Again, this is the late night gaming stream from this weekend's event at Richmond. Everything just finished up a few hours ago. I'm going to be looking at the VODs. I kind of want to look and learn because this is honestly what I didn't predict numbers anywhere that I'm aware of. But if you had asked me, I would have said these decks as potential top 8s or just outside top 8. I think it's going to be important to look at the top 16 just as a throwing it out there because something bubbled probably that could have very easily been in the top 8, or does, if 9 through 16 are a whole bunch more Quinlan or a whole bunch more of Han or whatever, it'll inform decisions going forward. Now, as always, the overlay here will get updated as we go through. Don't worry about the fact that it says Quinlan and Tarkentown and Data Vault Kira, although we'll see that later. We're actually focused on Anakin Colossus versus Mono Han. Now, going in, because I'm going to let this roll a little bit. Going in, I would say that Han is favored. I don't know the exact list. We can look them up now, but I'm not going to pull them up. We're going to go in blind. You don't have access to DJ anymore, which would have been crippling in this matchup for obvious reasons. Like, Anakin basically never deploys kind of thing. But here, it's going to be a question of whether you can hit the disruption or do they actually hit the bodies? Because a lot of Anakin's stuff ends up trading into Han stuff. So you can kind of stabilize and then eventually, like, you don't have no good to me dead to lock down Anakin for multiple turns. So you have to actually interact with the Anakin to kill it, or it's probably just going to end the game because thanks to Colossus, extra health, extra damage for Anakin, etc. You get where this is going. Now on the Anakin side, you are kind of limited. If you have a Force user, you could Force throw yourself to hypothetically immediately kill the Han, but it is possible for Han to like snowball out of control because you end up, you early deploy, you do the whole 7-drop thing, and either Han unit or Enfys just goes to town. If Luke unit can get online, Han, I was going to say Anakin, but Luke unit can get online from Anakin, it starts to beat up Han. It beats up everything. If Luke is online, you start your turn with a Luke in play, you're generally in a good spot most of the time. So we'll see how this goes. I have not tested a ton of Anakin myself, I'll be honest. I don't love Anakin as a deck. I think it's something, I was joking about this earlier, that I initially said I don't respect Anakin, but I do, in the sense that it is something you have to have a game plan for. It is something that you have to be prepared for. And a lot of the tools that you would use to stop it, like if I'm playing villain yellow, okay, No Good to Me Dead is good against Anakin. It's also good against Darksaber Sabine. It's also good against Han, etc. Like it's a more universal answer. But if you don't have access to that, you do need to consider what you're going to do about the Anakin actual leader, because, well, it's a leader, so it's tougher. And then it's also just potentially going to end the game super quick. So we'll see what happens here. Let's see if we can skip ahead. Looks like they're going to bring up we get the deck list here. I may have skipped past the other one, but Anakin Colossus, Outer Rim Outlaws is interesting. I like that the Red Squadron's there. That and C-3PO help smooth out some of the draws. R2 is also kind of interesting, but again, these one-attack guys can trade into a lot of things, especially early in the game because of, the Anakin ability. We do have double bravado. I know people were cutting it at some point, which seems bizarre. The Miser's Resolute. Deal 2 damage to an enemy unit and each other enemy unit with the same name. Good God, that would be so annoying against me. I'm playing Vader. That would be so obnoxious. Crate Dragon on the board. We got the extra open fire on the board. Chams. 2 Chams main. That's interesting. Village people are pretty annoying too. And then after that, so main deck Bamboozle. I like that. I know one of our locals, shout out to Bernardo. Well, he's not really local, but he comes to a lot of our local events. A man is grinding. He kind of loves the Mando. Only 2 Bodhi's main, 2 Sparks main, so we don't have as much disruption. But we do have Ezra's, no wing leaders. So just Ezra. One of the this is very interesting. There's a ton of 2-ofs. With some of them extra copies in the board. There are some tools here to fight Anakin. Like we see the Gamma guards that could potentially come in just to keep something alive. Obviously, Anakin overwhelms. I'm blocking some of this. I just realized, whatever. The lists are available. The lists are on Melee, and I'm sure they're going to get posted everywhere. So it looks like initiative is going to be starting off with our Han player. And again, overlay says Han Data Vault. It's mono Han. Don't worry about it. Yeah, that main deck Cham is interesting, as Chad is pointing out. The players, I believe, did get deck list access, so they're going to know. Like, the Han player is going to try and play around. And this is something I will call out. Logistically, it is not really feasible to run around giving people everyone's deck list every round. So in the Swiss rounds, I get it. I prefer open deck lists, and I think it is interesting to see, okay, you have that cool tech. How does the other player, because we're assuming everybody's super high-level players here, so you have to respect their ability to ingest information and then adapt. So I find it way more interesting to have them have that information available ahead of time than it is for them to get blown out. Be like, oh, we hit him with the surprise Cham, and then like the game just ends because you're not reasonably playing around that. It also levels the playing field for people that don't have teams, because it's not easy, but it's easier to scout someone's potentially entire deck list if you have 3 or 4 other people playing in the event, or at least around the event. Whereas the person who's like, hey, this is my first big tournament, or like the first big tournament I did well, you're on an island. So it levels the playing field a little bit there. There's other reasons, but I just want to put out there that I like the open deck list. So we're leading off with Elite, which apparently people don't like. They call it L3. I always call it Elite. But anyway, the answer is Sabine. I think you just got to run into it here. Like, otherwise the Sabine eats it. I think that the later the game goes, I think the better Anakin's chances are, because although the crates and stuff are in the board, you do need to recover. Like, you have a better window as Han, I think. Now, I think it was Alex that had said that like the Han game plan is kind of U-shaped, where you're great in the early game, you're great in the late game, and then struggle in the middle game. I don't like this at all. Now, look, this player top 8 at this event, I didn't even go. They're probably way better than me. But investing a card like that seems not great. I don't know what the concern is. We saw the deck list. But like, why not just punch the Sabine? If the Sabine then wants to trade, fine. I feel like you don't want to get rid of that surprise strike. Plus, here's the bigger thing. Unless they Han resource and play another 2-drop, which doesn't feel great, you're not advancing your board. So your elite is going to be staring down whatever their 3 resource play is. Like, that doesn't feel good. Admittedly, I'm not the best Han player in the world, but like, that doesn't seem right. Could be nerves, or maybe that is the correct play. Han players, you'll have to tell me. The follow-up is Outer Rim Outlaws, Outer Rim something or other, new card, 3/3 shielded. This is pretty cool. It can be up to a 5 attack with Anakin, and because it's shielded, it's way more likely to get that attack in. So yeah, we're just going base. There's nothing, like, there's no point in popping the shield. But again, like, you have nothing else on the board. Imagine if, you attacked into the Sabine trades, and then you just played Liberated Slaves. Is it Liberated Slaves even in the deck? Well, Ezra, you have a 3/4, it lives. It'll take it. Well, it won't live. It'll die. So, but no, you would have had it on the board, and then it would have died to the attack this turn. So maybe that's not where you want to be. Maybe that's the fear. Like, is that the correct reason? You kill the Sabine because your follow-up guys are all going to get punched in the neck thanks to Anakin? Because most of your stuff is not going to live as the Han player until you get to Han. So maybe you want to keep the board clear until you can deploy Han and then ramp? Is that the logic? I'm not sure. But either way, we get red 5. Red 3? Red 5, right? All right, so we get Ahsoka coming out. Looks like open fire goes, but yeah, we're going to get the easy kill here. This is kind of what we're expecting. Anything that is not super tanky is going to die. Super tanky being 6+ health. And honestly, this is not a great board position. Not a great board position for Han. As I mentioned earlier, the longer the game goes, the more that the Colossus liability drifts away. We have seen a little bit of disruption in the form of Ahsoka, which is good, but you really need more. So we're going base just to get the value while we can. You're on 5 resources, Han. Like, a Poe here would not be good. I mean, I guess a Waylay would be bad. C-3PO, whiff, it looks like. Don't know what was called. I mean, we could... I guess maybe the casters would know. Well, they wouldn't. They're remote, too. So we are going to get the Han activation. It's resource 5. Han's coming out. 7. There's a lot of potential 7 resource plays that are very dangerous here. That is a Queel? Question mark? No, that's a Yoda. It was a blue with a 2. I just couldn't quite tell. I'm pretty sure that's a Yoda. So we're going to get the buffed hit. This allows for the Han to go down next turn, which is relevant. So if the Han dies this turn, it means that you can get to 7 resources again next turn. If the Han dies next turn, like first action, which it's clearly going to, like Anakin's going to end up claiming here because Han's going to attack, Han's going to ramp, Han's going to play more cards, and all you got is red 3 here. Unless Han like snap claims, which would be weird. But the point is that the Han is likely not, like, you're not going to run in this turn, so it's going to die, and you're not going to be able to get to, you can get to 7 this turn, but not next turn, so you can't go back-to-back big bombs unless you run it in, which I don't know if that's correct. And we do get the big debate here, so I guess there is... I mean, I don't think there was any way that we saw that you could get rid of both this turn. No, we're just marking the hand. With the dark sleeves, it's kind of hard to... There's a shadowed spot there. Yeah, I don't think that there's 2 things that you could use to clear both to prevent the Han from actually doing stuff. Okay, so we are going to sack the Han into the Yoda. That does give the ramp for this turn, allows the Han to be active for the next turn. Red 3 getting in. You had to attack with the Han because otherwise red 3 is going to end up killing it for freezes, quite clearly. Only 8 damage on there, so it's still a very healthy Anakin. And it's going to be deploying next turn. So Kira comes down. We see Cham. I think that's Cham. That's fine. I mean, you probably name something else. But it almost doesn't matter what you name. Because if the Han player wants to remove... Or, excuse me, if the Anakin player wants to remove Kira, it's going to get removed. So we're just pushing damage. That's going to put him at, what, 11? You are not going to... I don't know how the Han player really stunts the Anakin here. You kind of need 2... You either need 2 attacks and a pump. So, like, surprise strike Kira, swing in lead, or vice versa. A cunning can slow things down, but we do know that there are village people, village protectors in the Anakin deck, so that's a problem. All right, the big debate about bouncing the Falcon. I imagine you're going to keep it. I'm going to put this on 1.5 speed. Might have to slow it down when they get to more snap decisions. Getting rid of Bodhi from the row there. That's interesting that it was road. It may have been ramped off the Han, like off the top, but VOD could be useful given it looks like there's 2 cards in hand. So we're going to trade the Falcon here. Would it have been correct to punch the red 5? Probably not, because then Falcon ends, or Anakin ends up with initiative and then just attacks and kills the Falcon for freezies. So yeah. Unfortunately, the bigger butts on the Anakin side are just making this really awkward, which Han does do to other decks. You know, if you go a turn 1, 3-5, turn 2 Gamma guards by ramping or something like that, you're playing above curve and then you can just trade down constantly. That's kind of the game plan to Sabine, for example. Here, it's kind of the other way around. So we're going for smuggled tech. This feels like you're setting up like, oh, yikes. That's a Jedi lightsaber. Okay. You have what? 2 resources as Han, possibly 3. Like if you resource right now, you could have 3 resources. I don't know what you do to deal with Anakin right now. Because Anakin lightsaber is a big problem. You don't have a cunning to tap him down and like buff something so that way you could try and crash into him. I think that's probably your best bet. This is a big yikes moment for Han. This is a big yikes moment. I think the smuggled tech was really just like pseudo sentinels. Like, please punch my guy so I can whittle down Anakin and then eventually throw enough stuff into him. But the lightsaber is just honestly kind of catastrophic. A 10 health Anakin is virtually immortal. It is like virtually immortal. Now, there is a world where I guess you race, which is what it seems we're going for, but at 15, oh no. Oh, wow. You did not want to see that. If you are the Han player, you do not want to see village people at this stage. So Anakin comes out, that's the invisible card that's over there. We do, of course, see the lightsaber because like there aren't, and I assume Han claimed, I may have missed it, but so we punch the tech. The power down means that he only has 3 health. You overwhelm for like a gazillion, and you take no damage back. That's oof. Yikes. So we clear out the village people, but like now Anakin gets to crash for infinite because the way the triggers work with the on attack. So you just overwhelm into thin air and clobber. So we're at what, 15, 18, 21? No Han deploy? Yeah, we're scooping them up. I mean, I said it earlier, I don't know if this is the true relationship between these decks, but it does feel like Han is in a weird spot now because you have to have, I guess you don't have to have, but it feels like it's very necessary for you to have cunning in order to be able to one-shot Anakin. But that also assumes that there is no, so we get a look here. Like, what can you do to an Anakin with a lightsaber? You have to surprise strike. You could bamboozle. Like, it's pump with bodies, or you bamboozle, or you strip one of the things ahead of time. You could tap it down, so I imagine there's a bunch of stuff that could get boarded in here, honestly. There's a variety of things. Are they necessary? Oh, there are liberated slaves. Okay, so it's Ezra and liberated slaves. I thought I saw them there, and then I second-guessed myself when I was saying it earlier. Like, you're bringing in... Like I said, I could see a lot of stuff coming in here. You're not too worried about the Air Force, I don't think. So, like, Falcon probably isn't as useful. There aren't a ton of ways for them to immediately blow up the Han deploy. We can definitely see it get set up for a kill, but it's not like they're dealing 6 readily, I don't think. The difference between hero yellow and villain yellow is no good to me dead. Whereas here you have Bamboozle, you have Cunning, you have Mando, you have Leia. Like, you have a lot of exhaust effects. You don't have a ton that prevent it from happening. By the way, I'm covering up Restored Arc. I'm in the way. So there are Yodas. I missed the Yodas earlier. Obviously, we saw it in play, so it had to be there. I imagine... I mean, it's got to be the other Cham. We didn't see Ezra in game 1, but you did get to see the deck list, so Open Fire could come in. I don't hate Crate in other decks into Han. However, that assumes that, you know, you can get there. So your ramp is Cham. So it's going to cause other weird things, and your goal is probably to end the game before that. Maybe Anakin is now well positioned into Han. Yeah, we need a Han and or Anakin player to kind of corroborate that. I'm getting pings in Discord about the Vader decks. I don't agree that that's a preference card. Sorry. I'm reading the other discussion. So, coming back to this game. Game 2, I would have thought that Han was favored, but I guess not. Okay, so hold on. We've got Poe. We've got Outlaw something or whatever, the 3/3 shielded thing. And then Anakin's Interceptor. What do you take as Han? Now, we don't know Han's plan. My default is pretty much, it's either... do you auto lose to insert card? Otherwise, take whatever they're playing this turn. That's usually the like rule of thumb. I think Poe is kind of awkward in the sense that, like, if you have a Cantina Bouncer, if you have a Waylay, if you have the answer, you can just go pop that back in the hand. This is kind of annoying. But I would probably take their turn 1 play. Now, that being said, okay, so if we think that Anakin wins the later game, you don't want to just, like, effectively pass here, which is what a Spark taking their turn 1 play does. However, if you don't take the turn 1 play, that thing is going to do X amount of damage. So the question becomes, do you have a way to deal with it? Like, do you have a Falcon in hand? Or some other way to remove it? Because if you don't, and this will trade with a Falcon, unless, you know, they attack and then you play the Falcon, it kind of causes a weird problem. We saw that in some of the other games in the Swiss, and I think I recorded videos for that. I'll get those videos up at some point. But if you... I forget what match it was. It was... oh, yeah, there was a Han into... and somebody played the 2/3 hot shot thing for 2. I think it was Mando. Yeah, it was Han versus Mando. And the Han player had a Falcon out or something, and they played Han Pilot into it. And their opponent, who didn't have initiative, had just played whatever the 2/3 vanilla spaceship is. And in my head, it was, well, you have to kill that thing because it's Mandalorian. They're obviously going to stack it up. And if you don't, like, when are you dealing with this thing? Just kill it now and be done with it, right? They didn't, and that thing went on to deal like 12 or 14 damage over the course of the game. They eventually, well, dealt more than that, I think, because they then responded with their own pilot. I think it was Luke, and that thing was just swinging for the fences. Point is that you, and I know these players are very good, and I'm sure they thought about it, but like the selection here is the shielded guy. So that means Anakin's Interceptor goes into play. You effectively did nothing on turn 1. Unless you have another Spark, or like you're going to ramp Ahsoka or something. All right, we're going to go Ezra. Like, if you're going to do this, I think the answer is, well, again, maybe this is, you knew, okay, so Ezra's just dead. Like, you knew you were going to play Ezra as the Han player. So that means you can't let them have the shielded guy because it just kills Ezra. But I wonder if you're better off just playing turn 1 Ezra and like hold the spark to deal with Luke later. You know, resource 7, you have initiative, pow, spark. Or whatever it happened. Maybe resource 6 to make sure they don't have a Jedi lightsaber or something. I don't know. I don't know if turn 1 spark is really what you want to do. I have no idea what those cards are. That one kind of looks red, and I think it says when played, so I'm going to say Cham, the one that's closest to me. And then the other one is whatever the other card was in hand that I already forgot. I guess. Maybe. Possibly. Actually, that looked like, when they scooped it up real quick there, that looked like it was the another outlaw. Yeah, it's another outlaw. Oh, no. Because that's just going to kill Kira. We don't know what Kira named, but I guess it kind of doesn't matter. So this is the weird thing. Well, I guess you can run in. Han has initiative, so you run and kill the village people. He gets to kill something. If he kills Ezra, then the outlaw lives another turn. But he's choosing to kill Kira, unlocking whatever the card was. It's going to depend on Anakin's hand. There's a world where you kill the Ezra just so that... Wait, did he miss the Ezra trigger? There's no way he missed the Ezra trigger. I probably just missed it when he did it. But I wonder if you're supposed to punch Ezra just to prevent them from doing anything. It all depends on what he was trying to unlock from the Kira. I have to imagine it, whatever he named was not a card that was in hand at the time. That looks like he missed the Ezra trigger. Unless he just left it on top. Oh, okay. So he looked at it now. He was just checking his hand. He decided to leave it on top. Okay. Guess we're having further debate about what we're doing with the Ezra trigger. Oh, he just put it on top to think about it. And then he was debating what to do. I think milling the liberated slaves the correct choice here. They're probably not going to come into play. The problem is now you kind of, if you're going to deploy Han, which we're clearly going for, you kind of need to kill that 3/3, right? But you knew the Cham was there, which is likely what the Kira was naming. Okay, I take it all back. I forgot the Cham was there. That was the card I couldn't remember. But because you ramp, now they have a permanent resource. And again, you're going to trade out your Han on the next turn. You will get an attack. No, you won't get an attack next turn if they get initiative. So we ramp to 7. 5 damage on the Han. This is having shades of last game. The Anakin player presumably is going to claim. Like, I guess they could play an R2. We know that's in the deck. Oh no, we get the Anakin deploy. Yeah, we get the Anakin deploy because... Okay, hold on. We get the Anakin deploy because of... Wait, what? Ooh, all right. So we got the Anakin deploy because of the Cham. The 7 resources go into Han, which allows them to clear out the 3/3. And now it's the bait of a 5 attack Anakin into where does it want to go. Because if Anakin attacks anything, Han player claims, Han unit murders Anakin. You know, that classic scene from the movies. So decision time. Now, the Anakin player is going into resource 7. So like Luke is live. That's something you always have to be concerned with. Like it's scary to have ramped when you know they had Cham, but I don't think there was much of a choice. All right, so we are going to run over Han. Take some amount of overwhelm. I think 3. I don't remember what they were at. I'll assume they did it right. Of course, our Han player claims. That means that Han is live. Well, the Han shoot first is live. But also that, again, Han leader died, so you can get back up to 7 resources if you really need to. which I was making a big deal out of in game 1, but it didn't seem to matter. But you're actually behind. You gave your opponent a resupply with a body. So down goes Anakin. Hurdle number 1 has been leapt. Yikes. Okay, the answer Luke is actually pretty big. If Anakin starts their turn with that Luke in play, they're just dead, right? All right, we're running in with Ezra to put 3 on it. That has to be... We didn't even... Wait, hold on. He didn't even look at the top card again. Oh, no, Ezra's complete an attack. Ezra's complete an attack. Oh, we got the Han. Okay. Second Han unit. Did the Anakin player... So they did what? 5? They did 4 overwhelm. This thing is attacked 5 times. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. You would have attacked 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're playing 1. So yeah, it's attacked 5 times. It's done 10 damage. Yikes. That is a yikes moment. I don't think our Han player needed to do something differently there. I think you still have to go for all that stuff, but I think the big play was the spark, right? All right, Bodhi, what do we got? Restored Arc and C-3PO. Nice. On the 3. I wonder what the math is on the 3s there. All right, so we're killing off C-3PO to make sure they don't draw out of this. So here's the thing. So I was able to listen to some of the commentary. I didn't get to watch the games. I think they made a similar remark regarding the Spark turn 1, if I recall correctly. But because I wasn't watching it, it was one of those like, oh yeah, I'm hearing the thing, so like, let me see it. And do I agree or disagree? I think I agree with the commentators that like this, and it's obvious this thing is now hit for 1 billion. The reason I brought that up though, is I do recall something about like whether they need to go base or not. So do you kill the C-3PO? It drew a card. I don't know how likely it is to draw a card. They are clearly invested in naming 3. How many 3-cost cards do you care about out of Anakin at this stage in the game? Like, the thing you care about is Luke, which admittedly, if they draw a card, they're 1 card closer to finding another Luke. But it's kind of like, if they draw anything else, it's not good. But is it worth killing the C-3PO? And I'm not sure. Because they could be at like, with Anakin no longer a factor, do you just turn on the jets and go for it? It's like we got a smuggled lead. The old smuggled lead. Cassian putting pressure on, so 19-5. Like, this is a huge amount of pressure, and there's no end in sight for this interceptor. There's just no end in sight for this thing. Oh, I feel like I got something in my eye. It's a little scratchy. All right, so what does our Han player do? Like, Enfys is not bad here, I think. If you Enfys, yeah, they can replay it, but at least you're saving some damage and you're going to be attacking with it and resetting their board. Plus, you need to kind of preemptively address... Wait, what was that? Oh, it was a Waylay. Waylay's down here and the Cassian's gone. I don't love that. I mean, I know we have to go for face, and if you're going to... If the Han has to take a turn off to kill it... What else do we have in... How many cards does this player... Does Han have in hand? 1? I think they probably have 1. Because I think they had nothing last turn. Restore Dark. I understand the need, the desire to race. And I think they were carefully dancing around not activating this yet. Oh no, that's a PP. Dropping the PP onto Han. I did not see that in the deck list, but we were kind of skimming it. Tech gets... Oh, the open fire removes Han now that he's -2/-2. Yeah, this is not looking good for Han. He's still got to deal 25. That's an entire base worth of damage. Admittedly, the Anakin player's low on cards, but they kind of just need to play stuff. All right, so we get tap, presumably buff. Twitch, or the YouTube chat is saying that they misdamaged Mannequin's Interceptor because it would... I guess I was going to say because it's buff, but you need to be at 15, I think, so I guess they just missed 2 damage in there. But the players are doing something off screen, so I guess they're writing it down? Question mark? And I will never, like, the whole base damage thing is stupid. Just let people write it down. It's fine. I know it puts more pressure, and we were talking about this earlier, it puts more pressure on the streaming team to then maintain stuff. And obviously checking in makes it more complicated if the stream team doesn't catch it, but, like, who cares? I'm more concerned that the players are doing it properly. And I will always be of the opinion, just write it down. It's way, way better. Both players should be writing down life totals. Either way, we're 21. Cassian's on the board. Any hit then activates the Anakin, so, like, you'll be at 24 from the Cassian. You're dead in 2 hits. You're dead in 2 hits. You kind of need another... We get a waylay onto it? Yikes. That's not what you want to see. Play Yoda. That's the restore there is also backbreak. Like, I don't know. This just felt like Han was... I don't want to say they were never in the game. I don't want to say they were never in the game. There were definitely sequences like they delayed a Han attack on the one turn that allowed the perilous position to land. I don't know where our Han player could have done something differently other than the spark on turn 1, but that means that the Outlaws lands. Oh, I thought they were scooping it up. It's like, I don't... You kind of have to have another Cunning, and I don't even know that that gets you there. Because you'd have to, like, tap, bounce just to prevent both damage and the restore. Is this bad for Han now? Because this did not look good. This did not look good. Was there anything that could have been done differently in game 1? You got the Emphas, but, like, that's not enough. That is not enough. I don't know. I guess Han has to be the aggro in this matchup and be more aggressive about it. But I don't know if you can really do that because of the early shielded guys and just, I mean, Anakin plays bodies, so you're not gonna be able to do it. And the usual Han plan of like, oh, I keep the board clear into the Han deploy turn. Oh my god, a second Cassian. Yikes. That's the ball game. So if the usual Han plan is like keep the board clear. Wait, what are we at? I gotta write this down so we can get back to 5:23:25. 5:23:25. If the usual Han plan is keep the board clear so that way you can cleanly deploy. This game felt like there wasn't anything that the Han player could do differently. And maybe I'm missing something obvious. I mean, they could have drawn Bamboozle. Could have drawn, like, once the lightsaber landed on Anakin, it felt like it was game over. This game, I think you can question the spark play, but I understand the logic because this controls so much space, getting 2-for-1s like this, and threatening the Han deploy so that you can't just, you know, keep ramping with Han and do Han things. There was the attack on C-3PO. There was the delayed attack. So what did the Anakin player finish the game at? 15, 18, 19? What if they had 12 more damage on their base? It gets weird because if they had 12 more damage on their base, this thing is activated way sooner. So, like, maybe Han is just dead by this point because it's a 4-attack spaceship and you just can't stop it. There was a cunning, but it looks like they never saw a Falcon or something. I don't know that you kill the C-3PO. I feel like I would have gone face, but I also, maybe I'm just a bad Han player. Maybe I misread the scenario, or misread the scenario. But either way, whoop, dropping tokens. Have my Red Seal Gaming token. And some other tokens. Either way, GG. Well played. All right, let's get to the next game. Well, that was convenient. All right, so next game, again, all late night gaming stuff. Shout out to them for putting this together. Here's the puppy. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Where's the noodle? Where'd it go, boy? Right, he's going for his mommy. He's going for mama. All right, let's see. So we got Sabine ECL. We got Han Green. I had said last game that I would think going in that the Han was favored into Anakin. I also would think that Han is favored here into Sabine. I'm sure they'll put the deck list up. I'm assuming that, oh, this is Alex. Again, ignore this part of the overlay. But Alex is presumably the pilot here. I know he top 8'd, so... And, oh yeah, I just noticed the Naruto mat. It's Alex. The KTOD version, as far as I can recall, was like 9 Falcons.deck. The main thing being is more so that you get 9 somewhat busted turn 1 plays. Either Falcon, like new Falcon, set 4 Falcon, set 1 Falcon, or resupply. The 7, 8, and 9 Falcons come from the 6 drop. I don't know if they're actually running those, but like it was easier to say 9 Falcon. But any of those plays turn 1, and Falcon is also very dangerous into Sabine. You kind of need to see Sabine's masterpiece in order to fight it. That necessitates ideally a green turn 1 play, because I was testing Sabine a lot before the Django ban, and that was like how you would deal with Falcons. It's a powerful play anyway, but we'll see what happens here. Shout out to the Squirtle mat. What is this referencing, though? Like, clearly the Squirtles are supposed to be something. I don't know what they are. All right, we got a Luke, foil Luke, and we have a turn 1 Falcon. That's how you want to start off. You are the aggro deck now. Look at me. I am the aggro deck now. You just beat the crap out of 25 health base. But we do have the Masterpiece, and it's going to get the XP, so it lives. That is a big yikes moment. Han Green is not really going to have stuff like Daring Raid. So what is Alex's play now on 3 resources? That was a Waylay? Ugh. You don't like that. That's a big yikes moment. Oof. You don't want to do that. I mean, you got to do what you got to do, but having to waylay that feels awful. I don't know if it's necessarily worse or better than throwing a... All right, hold on, we got a Kira. Like throwing another Falcon out there. Either one. Like if you had new Falcon, it's not great. If you have old Falcon, you can run in and then possibly bounce it, or at least just leave a body out there, whatever. Because the goal for this deck is to land an early Falcon and then stick pilots in it. And imagine if they didn't have the ECL and it was like, let's pilot Chewie. The Sabine, especially game 1, probably just loses because that thing is huge and you just race. Either way, we get a Kira. So we got Masterpiece, which we knew, K2, Poe, and Rebel Assault. I was talking to some of my locals earlier. There are so many matchups that feel like if Sabine has Rebel Assault here, I just lose. Or like if they had, and by here, I mean like at any point in the game where they can attack with 2 things, it almost doesn't matter what the 2 things are. You just die. Shout out to the Batman sleeves. So it's going to be difficult to tell what they call. I mean, it's resource 4. I imagine it's K2, right? Rebel Assault isn't great this turn. You could just slam Luke and Sabine in to remove Kira to hit the K2 anyway. It looks like we're not going to do that, so we'll see if we can figure out what was named. I feel like you named K2 just because there's 2 and it's the on-curve play here, but again, I'm not a Han player. Okay, it's clearly not K2. Was it Poe? There's no ECL. Yikes, that's 11 damage, and that is a significant ground force. We don't have Barrage and Hero Green. Yellow Green Hero. Whew. That was a struggle to get out of my mouth. Wow. What is... Honestly, I don't know how Han gets out of this. This seems problematic. So yeah, we're going to do a little board control. But now K2 runs over it and pushes extra damage? That's a Darksaber. Dude, and there's still a Rebel Assault. Oh my god. Maybe he named Rebel Assault? That's a Han unit. Okay. New Han. So we're going to deal 3. Han is tapped out. Are we going to deploy Han? That gives initiative back to the Sabine player. And you're already at 21? All right. We're going for the Han play. I guess this is this is the best chance to win as compared to the don't lose. But you're dead in 2 actions if they have... Well, you don't have ECL. So it'd have to be... We didn't see the deck list this time, so like... And again, the damage didn't go on base. I'm sure they're writing it down. Probably like... I mean, Fasibi, Daring Raid. I doubt Daring Raid is in the list because Daring Raid isn't as important anymore. The attack in this sequence is interesting from Alex. So we swung in with this, then we swung in, counter swung with this. The reason being is I presume it's just like, okay, we clean up the board possibly with this, but I don't know that that matters. I think every time you're going face. 2. Timely. Other K2. Yeah, there was the other K2 in hand, so it didn't matter. Because the Han, the new Han, was damaged, you can overwhelm for damage, and then it dies because it trades, and then you deal 3 more. Big yikes moment. Timely's a good card. I do like Timely's. Ambush is the most powerful keyword, so like getting more instances of ambush, I like it. I like it. It will mess up the math on your Facibis, so I'm very curious how that plays out. We'd have to see the deck list, which hopefully they'll put up. Again, I could go get it, but I'm not going to. Squirtle Mat is adorable. Shout out to all my Bulbasaur fans. That was my starter back in the day. I think I'm like literally the only person who did that. So we don't have the sideboards, but clearly Han is going to have gas in the board for Sabine, and Sabine is going to have tools to fight Han. I imagine there are Chams, for example. It's tough to... The waylay on the Masterpiece was very telling. Like, I don't know what the rest of Alex's hand was, but yikes. If that's the best option, and given the caliber of player that Alex is, that he wouldn't have done it if it wasn't the best option, that speaks volumes about the rest of the hand. You had exactly what you wanted. Okay, so hold on. We do get the list here. Main deck Confiscate. Wow. The Miser's copy. But yeah, like look at this turn 1 potential plays. Blue Leader, Falcon, Hauler, Resupply. Any of these with a Chewy in it is just like catastrophic for most decks. So you can see how he probably jumped out and then just bludgeoned people into oblivion, and probably would have done the same, to the Sabine player if it weren't for the ECL Masterpiece. So what comes in? Probably Confiscates. Maybe Traitorous? Probably not Traitorous, right? Like, Traitorous is just too slow. Traitorous is too slow, I think. You could probably cut these Falcons, the big Falcons. So it's not quite 9 Falcons, it's 8 Falcons.deck. Like, the tools are there. And I have to imagine that this is maybe not a preferred matchup for this deck. Also, by the way, I'm covering the Phoenix A-Wing that's behind me. Can't see it because of the chair, whatever. There's a Phoenix Squadron A-Wing behind me. I have to imagine that you're okay with seeing this matchup. You don't have access to Cunning like you do as Monohan, so it's not quite as brutal. Oh, I think a mosquito got in. I just saw something fly past. I think it was a mosquito. God damn it. Anyway, we got here's the Sabine list. Interesting, only 2 Darksabers, and there's not an extra copy on the board. Chewies, the Oops, I Win factor. Got the Wing Leaders. I think this is just going to become a suite of like, okay, I want 6 things that let me go bananas. And there's your 6. Metal Ceremony, 2 Timelies, which I think we saw both. Everything else is hero, right? Everything else is hero. I was about to say the Sundaris are not, but they are. The Sundaris notably, probably there for Quinlan. The rest of it looks, yeah, this looks like it's a Sabine list. Oh, wait, there are no Chams in the board. Now that's interesting. I would have thought Chams were like auto, and wait, Fighters for Freedom on the board? I guess you want those against things that are not Tarkentown decks? And then you bring in more Sundaris against Tarkentown decks? The Bright Hopes are clearly going to come in. They're going to help slow down the Air Force. Confiscates. Confiscate's definitely coming in. What do you board out? Medal Ceremony Sundari? Question mark? I would want to remove events, but I don't think you want to get rid of Timely. And you certainly don't want to get rid of Rebel Assault. And I have to imagine that you want to keep Poe Wrecker. It does get a little weird in this scenario because typically, you know, you'd want to ECL Poe to slaughter Han. However, if you are waiting for that, that means that you can't Masterpiece. I guess the line that I was planning on was like, if I run into Han, I'm going to Masterpiece their Falcon if it shows. If it doesn't, then I hold on to ECL for Poe. I think is the correct way to go about this. I don't know. Might have to take a break in a moment. I need to pee. It's pinging me. Sorry, somebody's pinging me in Discord. All right. Whoa, whoa, whoa. What? Did I miss something? Or did they cut over too slowly? I was looking at Discord, so maybe I missed something, but like they're already on turn 2, it looked like, because there's a dead Falcon. Hold on. Hold, please. Come on. Any day now. I don't want to skip ahead by accident. What did we miss? Now it feels like there's a mosquito on me. All right. Dude, what happened here? Okay, hold on. We are on turn 2. We must have ramped to play the Falcon turn 1, and there's a Masterpiece that had to trade. Okay. Because the Sabine, they would have gone like, Alex would have had initiative, you ramp, play Sabine, probably ping, play Falcon, claim, swing, put you at 4. Okay, so no ping, it looks like. Yeah, no ping. Swing, claim, ECL the Masterpiece in, trade, you play Falcon, swing in. Okay. We're in position now. Surprisingly, no Plo Koon on the Han deck. I don't think you really want Plo Koon in this deck. This is more of a go tall than go wide. Oh, no! Pour one out. Look, sometimes they just got it. The Make Them Have It crowd is in shambles right now. The Make Them Have It crowd is in shambles right now. That's a timely into another Masterpiece. Now, this does preclude a Darksaber this turn. But since Han had to pay for that Falcon, the old-fashioned Falcon tax, gotta gas it up. All right, so we're ramping. Wait, was there a resupply somewhere here? Oh, he must have just played. Okay, he did just play the resupply. That allows for the Han deploy early. We used a timely. We used ECL. It's very unlikely that the other timely shows up and then allows for a quick kill on the Han. Clean up the Sabine unit. Reduces some damage. Han isn't in a terrible spot here. It's interesting that he decided to punch the Sabine unit as opposed to going face, because then it would have been 10 to 12 with a healthy Han. They can't ambush the Han. And I think it's likely. So Sabine probably has initiative here. I'm not clear on what they're using as a marker because you have like the KTOD Death Star token. I think that's the KTOD one. And then whatever the hell this is. I'm not sure which is which, but either way, I think Sabine ends up with initiative here. So you swing in with the Sabine unit. They counter swing with the Han. That puts you at 14, let's say. You swing back with the Sabine leader, and then the Han player, like an Enfys isn't great. You'd have to have Han unit, which they may not have access to. Like, I can't tell how many cards he has in hand. Like, maybe 2 based on the shadow that's up here. Looks like 3, maybe. Yeah, it looks like a 3 because of the shadow. It gets weird because, like, an Enfys is fine, but then they play a bigger thing after you bounce, like, the Sabine unit, but then you get initiative, so you could swing in, kill their leader, bounce whatever they played. It all depends on what Alex has access to right now. He did have Han in there, right? Like, big Han unit and Enfys? I'm not imagining that, right? But either way, it is a Darksaber on the Sabine, and that is not the position you want to be in. I was almost going to say that it maybe was better to punch the Sabine leader last turn, because then it sets up a potential kill this turn. But what would have happened is that the Sabine unit would have just rammed into... No, because you would have had 4 health. Yeah, I don't know. All right, so let's assume for the moment that he had attacked base last turn, and they were at 10. You take 6, you're at 16. You swing back for 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, which puts you at 23, assuming that you don't run over Han at that stage. Salvage for a Falcon. I do love salvage. So we got to see how Alex ends this game, and could they have closed it if 4 more damage was on base? / would they have died if there was 6 more damage on base from the Sabine unit living? 7 more damage. No. Well, 4. We'll see how much longer. Oh, nice. That's not good. That's Fleet Lieutenant, so that's 9 damage to base, and he has the 4 cause. He just showed it. I don't think he showed it to Alex, but... So he's at 15. $28. So an additional hit from the Sabine unit, and Alex was just dead. Yeah, there was no combination there because the surprise strike only gets 9. Darksaber's pretty good. Darksaber's, I've heard, is a good card. That kind of felt like, hey, the Sabine player just had it. Like, they drew 3 Sabine masterpieces and 2 timelies across 2 games. And they were all on time. So, it is what it is. Yeah, it looks like they boarded in the Confiscate, the Heroics. Oh, looks like a Sundari. They brought in Sundari? Looks like 5 cards came in. I'd be curious to hear what the sideboarding strategy was, but yeah, it's... Look, sometimes they got it. Sabine is a good deck, right? The Han deck is a good deck. It clearly got there, so it's tough to be in that position. I would not have made some of the decisions Alex did, but Alex is a better player than me, so maybe I just need to keep in mind that I should have gone for these lines. Like, for example, Alex punched the Sabine unit. I probably would have just tried to race, depending on what was in my hand. Like, if I knew I had the Hotshot Blaster, I think I'm going for it. But then you also just auto-lose to a Rebel Assault, which maybe Alex was playing around. Because you swing in for 7, And you swing in for 4. That puts you at 23. Okay, no, wait. You had to kill it. You have to kill it, because otherwise you just die first action to the Sabine, right? The Sabine leader. Yeah, you just auto-died the Sabine leader, so yeah, never mind. I wasn't doing the math properly. Which I did do the math properly, and then just... I even said it out loud, and then just said, no, let me just do this other stupid thing. Yeah, I don't know. All right, hold on a second, chat. I'll be right back. All right, chat, we're back. So I wanted to take a look at this because I realized as I was going away, like, wait a minute, did I misremember the one turn, the Han? So that was game 1. And then there was a chat comment that I saw that I wanted to bring up. Okay, so was it this? Yeah, so this is the Sabine deploy turn. We have the resupply that's coming in, right? So this is the other comment. This is actually one of our locals. Shout out to John. If the meta turns out to be Sabine, Han, Quinlan, and maybe Kira Anakin, then Bamboozle needs to be reversed. Boring set 3 meta recursion. We'll come back to that because I could have done the whole video on that, and maybe I will, but so I want to see this turn again. All right. So we swing in, it puts us at 9. So the election here is to remove Sabine unit. The other option, like I was saying, you could do 3 things. You can kill Sabine unit, you could punch Sabine leader, or you could go base. I was thinking race and go punch face. However, there's an argument. We know, like hindsight, we know that the Darksaber's coming. And I have to imagine that Alex was taking an educated risk here of whether the Darksaber was an option. Like, you know there's only 2 in their deck. Maximum. So we did not have another play for 2 resources that turn. So we're at 12. If we go face, they're at 10. Is there any way to get 15? You get 6, 9, and that's it. Okay, so going face is not going to work in light of the Darksaber play. However, so if you go... Because Sabine's going to have initiative. They know they have Darksaber. And we're assuming that Sabine unit is still here. If you play the Darksaber, then Han can turn around and kill the Sabine unit now. So do you swing in with the Sabine unit first so that you can guarantee that you get something? That would then give a window for the gun to come down, allowing Han to kill Sabine leader. And the Han player is at 15. If you go face again, so you're at 14. So it took 10, attacked to 14, well, it would be 16. Darksaber comes down. So this was assuming Sabine player attacks face with Sabine unit. Then Han player goes Hotshot Blaster on Han, swing to face. Then you play Darksaber. You can't salvage. Well, you could salvage, but you can't attack with the Falcon, because if you do, then they claim and the Saber ends up killing you, because you're at 15 and 7 is 22. Then you're at 29. You could then trade with the... Like, you're probably dead as the Han player, I think. Are you? So you'd be at 14. Hold on. So we got to. You took 4 last turn. You take 4 this turn. 2 more. So that's 16. And 3 is 19. No, then the Sabine player has to trade with you or they die for freezies. So you're at 22 facing down a Sabine unit with a... No, you're facing down a Sabine leader because the Sabine unit will have an XP on it and it's a 3/4 so it can deal 4 to the Han. So those trade and you're left with your Falcon versus their Sabine with Darksaber. But they're dead to a surprise strike. Like, they're at 19. So put 3 and 3 together in any combination that you need to make that happen. You either have 6 from, and I could be miscounting here, never do math on stream. But I wonder if the more aggressive line would have been better. I mean, like I said before, Alex is a way better player than I am in general, probably, and certainly for Han. Because this plays out as... And this is all operating with, oh, well, the ECL is down, so they can't just, oops, I kill Han. So they go Saber. Part of the issue is that you're super action intensive. And I'm willing to be wrong. I'm willing for somebody that plays Han or plays Sabine more than I do or knows this matchup better than I or just a better player than I am, because there's a lot of those. Like, I want to know, was this a misplay to not just go face and try and race them? There's the salvage. I mean, you had to have Surprise Strike. / they had to not have a way to kill you when they put you to 29. So, like, in the sequence that I was describing, if you just attack with the Falcon, then it means that they attack and put you at 29. Like, you attack with Falcon, because they had to trade with Han first or you die. So they send Sabine unit in. Then you attack back with the Falcon, put them at 22. You swing back with the Sabine, they put you at 29, and you have to claim. Well, actually, in this scenario, you would have been dead anyway, because they had the fleet lieutenant. I forgot about the fleet. I forgot about the fleet lieutenant. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess attacking the Sabine unit's correct. Because, I mean, my justification is an appeal to authority. Alex is better than me, so I'll trust Alex's judgment. I don't know. I'm open to what other people's other takes are. All right, let's find. This is the finals? Top 4? William, Mikhail, Phoenix. All right, so I guess it's this. All right, so this is the other top 4 game. I guess they split them up. So Quinlan Tarkentown into Anakin Colossus. I'm 0 for 2 on my predictions for how the matchups go. So I'm going to say Quinlan. My justification is discard, I guess. I don't know that Quinlan really has great ways to stop Anakin itself. We'll have to see, like, can you force throw yourself and pitch like a Han unit? I don't even know if Quinlan runs that right now. Otherwise, the game plan is try and kill them before Anakin actually gets out there, because I have to imagine once Anakin deploys, you're in deep doo-doo. Now, we did see Leets come down against Anakin earlier, and it did not work out. The answer here, though, is Restored Arc. All right. So the Restored Arc Going to help stabilize that life total. We did see throughout the weekend that Quinlans were shredding people's hands, but we also saw people win through either no discard or minimal discard and beat it up. Oh, this is... Okay, so they didn't start. This is already... Quinlan is up a game. They're like... I'm not live updating, but they're updating the UI. So that's a red 5 to supplement the Air Force. A-Wing came down, got the ping here. No Tarkentown, notably. Instead, Quinlan is claiming, which I imagine is so they can run the A-Wing either probably into something. I guess the Restored Arc. But then the red 5 clears it cleanly? So do you run into the red 5 so that you can either Tarkentown or ping? Because you can just kill it for freezies then, because it's 3. And we had a game earlier this weekend that I remember watching where it was a question of like, well, should they just claim and forego the 2 damage because it doesn't matter since it's Colossus, it's going to take 100 years to get through it. We'll see. All right, so 4 resource turn. Quinlan, we are going to go after the Restored Arc. Okay, yeah, we're punching bait. For a second, I thought he was attacking the A-Wing, and I'm like, why? But we are going base. That clears it out. So we have a Spark. Ooh, we're 4 resource turn. You don't have a... Well, you could Tarkentown, I guess, the Sabine if they play it, but I don't think you want to do that. You're going to be giving initiative to the Anakin player, so we're taking the open fire, leaving them with the Jedi lightsaber, but they have to do it next turn. They can't do it this turn. We have a Sabine unit to match. That allows a ping and a trade. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. I should have predicted that, given that they still had 2 resources up. Maybe not necessarily the Sabine, but like certainly some 2-cost thing. C-3PO, we did see those 3. Guess 3 was the guess. Quinlan deploys, and now we have a sizable amount of infantry. 3 resources. We know that there's a saber, but do you really want to give the sword to C-3PO? Okay, we drew into the shielded 3-3. Our Quinlan player has to have a bazillion ways to remove the shield, right? That's a force throw. So 3 damage going to go there. I imagine that it's going to get Tarkentown. That's got to be the Anakin player's entire hand at this point. Actually, you don't necessarily have to Tarkentown. You could just play a 3-cost to ping it, but I think you want to be able to ping the shield off the 3-3 and then trade in Sabine or eat it with Quinlan or something like that. You can probably clear the entire board, but you are going into the Anakin deploy turn. Admittedly, you will have a lot of ways to do it. Okay, so we're going to put 3 on C-3PO. So I guess we have a 2-cost to get played. So a 2-cost plus... Okay, Tarkentown. Yeah, our Anakin player just claimed. Oh, duh. 3-cost. Oh, Gorilla. Okay. Okay. This makes sense. I think we did see them play Gorilla earlier, maybe? So Quinlan's able to clear the 3-3. Gorilla had untapped. We're able to... Yeah, we're going to clear the field and represent a little bit of damage. All these things are going to end up having to trade into Anakin anyway, so you're kind of fine. So I guess the lightsaber must have gotten road. I think if they don't preemptively ban force throw, no one in set 5 will ever get to have a hand. Okay. This is a comment in chat from C-Raptor. Shout out to C-Raptor. Also somebody, I'm assuming this is the same C-Raptor. Someone else had made this comment, or response to this comment elsewhere. I don't remember where. But it does feel like think about Quinlan. If Quinlan had like 3 more Jedi cards in it, like let's assume that there's 3 more good, either red or yellow, or I guess even true neutral, hero Jedi cards, right? Does that materially change how Quinlan operates? Like, they always have the Force Throw active. Maybe it changes Anakin a little bit, because Anakin doesn't have quite as many Force guys, but even there, they do. They have Yoda. They potentially have Kanan. They have Anakin himself. Like, Force Throw is always live. So if Force Throw, like, people, don't get me wrong, people hate Force Throw, but, like, is Force Throw so much of a problem right now that if you always had a consistent Force Throw, like an even more consistent Force Throw, and the argument I'm making, or the other person was making that I agree with, is like, how much more consistent can it get than it already is? It's already basically every time Force Throw gets played, it's doing the Force Throw thing, and the discard part is always part of it anyway. So, like, if you're worried about the discard specifically, less about the damage, that always happens. And if you're worried about the damage, they already get it every time anyway. So, is it really an issue? Is it going to be more prevalent? Yes, because that's probably the first deck everybody's going to build. Whether you're playing villain or you're playing hero, you're building Force Throw first. Also, I got to remember to come back to the other comment that John made about the meta. We'll do that after this game. All right, so we get a card draw. That does kind of help a little bit, I guess. Depending on what you drew, you may or may not be able to play it. But this is an army waiting, salivating for Anakin to hit the board, because you're just going to get crushed. Like, you have to, well, it's 7 health, so technically nothing on the board can one-shot him. Technically nothing on the board can one-shot him, because even a surprise strike is not going to be sufficient to actually get there. I'm glad they're rearranging, because I was about to say I don't remember what this card was, what the Sabine was. All right, so we drew a Restored Arc. This is a tough spot to be in as Anakin. You're all in on this Anakin. I don't know if it's going to get there. All right, so we got a Cassian. That's going to ping and... oh, no, it has 4 health. It has 4 health. So no surprise strike is going to be representing here, but, I mean, you can just punch Anakin twice. I don't think you can not deploy. All right, so we're dirtling here just to make the Anakin a little bit bigger and also stall in action. But there's so many guys that, like, they're going to get there. So Anakin does, in fact, deploy. We run the Sabine in. Looks like we're just going face. We're not running over a body. That's fair. Make them do it. Force throw. Oh, Force throw yourself. See, like, that's the thing that bothers me more about Force throw, is not the targeting your opponent. I can't play around you drawing 2 cards like that. You know, like, you drew the Force throw and then arbitrary other card to fling at me. Technically, I guess it's 3 cards, because you need the Force Enabler, you need the Force Throw, and then you need the 3rd card to be able to fling at me. And in general, the play is not, like, ridiculous. But I find that way more irksome than I do them targeting me with Force Throw. Because I can always, not always, but, like, I can try and play around it. I can't do anything about you just drawing cards like that. But that's just me. I have, like, some really hot takes about the game. All right, so we got the ping. We got a smuggled tech. I mean, Anakin's just cooked here, right? Admittedly, our Quinlan player is at 19, and our Anakin player is at 19 as well. With, what, 8 represented on the board? Do we have a gun? We got a gun. 10 represented? I don't think there's any way for Anakin to buff the ships. We did see the deck list earlier, but I don't remember. I don't think there's any way to buff the ships, right? Like, you're not playing armed to the teeth. And most things are not running Daring Raid anymore. So there's kind of no point there. What do we got? That is a open fire. That's going to eliminate a big source of damage here. Is that enough? So 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That is lethal on the board. Technically, it's 9 because of the restore from the restored arc. However, you have tech, so like smuggle surprise strike. All right, onto that would do it. So that looks like Quinlan took the series. And then we're getting ready for the final. So I said we would talk about this before we get in. There was a comment from John, who, again, shout out to John. He actually said something similar to me earlier, or the other day. I forget when. I think it was earlier. And he mentioned it in chat, the YouTube chat, that the meta is basically the same. And that may be true. That may be true. We don't know, because this is the first meta, or the first meta building exercise since this was the first major event post-ban. So all of these decks are probably going to, they're going to say, okay, well, I thought it was this, it is now this, or I knew it was that, and it is that, so therefore this is the next step. And people are going to continue exploring Set 4, because the reality is that Set 4 released 2 weeks ago when Django was banned. Because before that, it was a totally different game. Full stop. So the question... I'm getting a bolt spot. I just noticed that when I turned my head. Was I like leaning on my hand weird? Okay, yeah. I just must have scratched weird or something. Anyway, that's not part of the conversation. Or it could be. So, because the meta has now turned over, my thing is, I don't care if we play with Sabine from now until 2057. Like, they make a new rule and they never rotate out Sabine, and the core of the Sabine deck never rotates out, and we always have that with us. If that happened, I don't care. I don't care if they rotate every set every week. Well, I mean, I would care about that for other reasons, but here's the thing. For me, a healthy metagame is not defined by the quantity of decks. If there was a tier 0, the Django meta, the Boba meta, which I disagree with because I think Django and Boba, that's another discussion, but the Django meta and the Boba meta were wildly different in terms of scope and what was viable and tons of stuff. The point is, a healthy meta to me is, can you play different archetypes? More importantly, even above that, here's the real definition. Is it fun to play the game because players are making meaningful choices? If you have a tier 0 meta where Django is the only deck, now, I don't think this was necessarily true with the Django meta, but this is for sake of argument, so stay with me before you get up in arms. If you have a tier 0 meta, and there's only one deck, literally nothing else is viable. You can't even build a deck to beat the tier 1 deck, or the tier 0 deck, and then you build a deck to beat the deck that beats the tier 0 deck. That doesn't exist. It is literally, you play this deck or you lose. Are there interesting and meaningful game decisions that are being made? If you play chess, and I can already hear people, well, we're not playing chess, we're playing a card game. Put that aside. If you play chess, your decisions matter throughout the entire game. And the better player will win every time. That is inherently not true of card games. The better player doesn't always win every time. There's variance, there's other factors. If we were in a tier 0 meta, I would be perfectly fine with only having a single deck as long as the games are actual games, meaning the decisions that I make and you make in the game matter. Because I did this, you have to do that, or this, and then because you did those things, I react in this way, and then we evolve the game state until it hits a conclusion. That can happen in a tier 0 meta, that can happen with 100 decks in the meta, but typically it's parabolic, where the amount of decisions that are relevant, as you increase the amount of decks in the meta, the amount of relevant decisions, both for deck building and gameplay, increase. Because you have to react to all kinds of different things. But then once you hit a certain point, you go down to the other end of the curve, the downward end once again, and you start losing things because you get so wide linearly that if you try to deal with this, you can't deal with this. And it's just not possible. You sit down and go, oh, I prepared for that deck, not that deck. So I'll beat that one and I'll lose to that one, and no relevant decisions were made in the game. That's why I don't think it's a healthy mind state to look at a meta, because people were doing this yesterday because, oh my God, look how diverse the meta is. There's like 600 decks. Well, guess what? There's only like the 5 that we knew really did anything. There were a couple outliers, and of course we had great players. Like George the Hulk got day 2'd and was an outside shot at top 8 for a while on Vader 1 Data Vault. Like, but he's way better than everybody. If he played a real deck, he'd probably top 8s, right? I don't have a problem with the meta repeating. I think it's okay if you look at set 4 and go, well, piloting is bad because of Bamboozle. Indirect isn't that great of a mechanic. And we had the same sort of problem with exploit and coordinate in set 3, and to a lesser degree, capture versus smuggle in set 2, etc. I think those are valid complaints to level at the design team. From a competitive standpoint, I don't think it's as troublesome, because as long as these matchups have meaningful decisions, and that is a debate that can be hashed out of whether these are all 50-50 matchups because it's based on player skill, or is it 50-50 matchups because if I draw this, you can't win, but if you draw that, I can't win, and then if we both draw it, then this happens. If we both don't draw it, then that happens, you know, where it's like completely out of your hands. And I think anybody who's played card games for a while can look at different formats over their career, and you're going to have these different scenarios play out. It's going to be interesting to see whether this bears out. It's the first event. Let's not panic. Maybe it is bad. Maybe this is terrible. And if you don't like it just because there isn't a new deck, I can't really blame you. Like, these are all known quantities. But the way a lot of the sets are set up, like let's say Quinlan was replaced with an arbitrary yellow hero from set 4, but it's all the same cards. How does that make you feel? If Sabine was replaced with an arbitrary red hero aggro leader, how does that make you feel? Like, do you feel better because, oh, it's a different face leading the deck? Even if the 50 cards are identical? Odds are there will be some minor changes, but like, you get the idea. Think about that hypothetical. Does it really matter? I'd argue it doesn't, but it's going to be different for each person. This is why Clawblade was a good MTG format, but all the affinity meta was just whoever had the best top 11 cards of their deck. Clawblade had a ton of interaction within itself. I didn't play during Clawblade. I did play during Affinity. Affinity also was problematic because it was, I mean, yeah, I think you're correct with that, because like if you played Big Red, or if you played like any of the green decks just so you could play turn 1 Oxidize to Stone Rain them for freezies. Well, maybe not for freezes. They probably played like 9 cards. If they went first, they go Artifact Land, 3 other things, go, and then you go Stone Rain you or blow up whatever. If you played mono red, you played red green or something like that to play all the removal, it was very much like, did I draw my stuff? Great. Did I not draw my stuff? Well, I guess I lose. It is what it is. But yeah, I didn't play during Clawblade, so I can't really speak to that one. I remember people complaining about it, but all right. So we're getting ready for the finals. So we do have Sabine. We do have Quinlan. Oops. Hold on. Hold, please. Gotta swap that over so the green screen works. On day 2, with known matchups, Quinlan Tarkentown won 6 games, Sabine won 8 games. It's very close to 50-50. Okay, so that was a comment from Ian. Shout out to Ian in Lego Pizza. I'm pretty sure that's going to be Lego Pizza in chat. I am of the opinion that this is Sabine favored. However, it's going to depend on what tech Quinlan has, the experience the Quinlan. I mean, at this point, you have to assume that both players know the matchup inside and out. They wouldn't have made it this far if they did not. So I don't think this is going to be a matter of experience. So I think that Sabine is favored here. It is difficult for Quinlan to get that enormous leap ahead most of the time, because you have the ping. Sabine is willing to just pass if necessary. We saw the Sabine deck list earlier. It's already running main deck Sundari, so it has even more X5s to play on turn 2. Excuse me. And it's just, yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how they play this out. We'll see what we can learn. All right, we're doing the 80,000 handshakes. People need to, like, we don't need a handshake before and after every single game. I'm not saying they're doing that here, but, like, just at the end of the match, fist bump, handshake, what a wave. I don't care, but, like, we only got to do it once. It's okay. Yeah, I mean, that's fair, Tona. I think that's fair. Based on that description. I'm telling you, I feel like this mosquito bit me all over. All right, people are still going on and on about the Force Throw thing, which I don't agree with. All right, so this is the Quinlan list. Main deck Disabling Fangfighter, by the way. I don't know if we pointed that out earlier. That could be very relevant here because there are a number of targets. It could be Chewie as a pilot. It could be the Darksaber. It could be, I guess, an experience token. All right, turn 1 Spark. I did a match breakdown of locals for this exact matchup. Like, some of our locals were going to Richmond. They were testing this matchup, and I think the handshake should be replaced with finger guns. 100% agree. I'm behind it. Get the petition. Get the fuck is that site? Whatever I can't think of it right now. I'm having a brain fart, but like the petition site. Like, start the petition. I'll sign it. But we were testing this matchup, and I said, I don't think you want to as Quinlan. You are the aggro deck in this matchup, in my opinion. You need to get there before Sabine takes over, and I don't think you want to discard unless it's your only option. Now, the Quinlan player did mulligan, so maybe this is all they had. But the opening hand from our Sabine player shows no turn 1 plays. So did he just bluff him? That is so awkward if you are the Quinlan player. I think you have to take the Sundari. Wait, what? Okay, so we're taking the Sabine's Masterpiece. So, I think Sabine started with initiative because they pinged. So if you pass as the Sabine player and the Quinlan player passes back, Sabine gets initiative. So they probably just claimed here. If they play the Masterpiece, you're going to be able to play a 3-drop and kill it. If they play the Sundari, you can't kill it. Like, this is kind of weird. Why did they do that? We'll have to see what they do, but I get wanting to remove the Masterpiece because maybe they A, don't have a 3-drop, B, to be able to ping it and then set up the Tarkentown play, or B, they were afraid of the potential ECL play with the Masterpiece start doling out experience. But then you can target down the Masterpiece anyway, and it's just a matter of what got the experience. I feel like you're supposed to take the Sundari there, but again, trying to learn. These players are better than me. Let's see if we can figure out why. All right, we lead off with the ping. This was going to be the Dirtle action. Again, and this is probably... So if the Sabine player does this, they ping, you can't pass as Quinlan because Sabine will just claim. You are better off, like, your top end, if you are able to, like, play the ECL Wrecker, you kind of just win as Sabine, so the faster you get there, the better. So if Quinlan passes, Sabine is ahead, if they're able to just claim. However, if you play, like, they do this, and then they play the Masterpiece, do you not just claim as Quinlan? Like, I don't think you want to see Sundari come down here, do you? Well, I guess, actually, no, you know what? If they play the Sundari, you can punch it and then Tarkentown it, so I guess that's fine. So now they're put in the dilemma of, do you have to ECL? Which they do. Which means that you burn the ECL, like you trade bases. Which I don't love as the Sabine player. Like you'd rather keep the ECL alive, but you can't just play the Sundari into it. So at least now I understand why the Quinlan player did this. All right, so Kira, K2, for a cause, Wrecker, K2. I'm going to guess K2 to just blank their turn. But like, dude, this is what I was talking about. So they went from 0 damage. Well, not 0 because the pings were there, but like you're at 10 all of a sudden and you don't have an immediate answer to the Sabine, meaning if they play a Darksaber, you might just be dead. Now, ECL is offline. ECL is offline, so that means that you're not necessarily going to have the ECL Wrecker play. Looks like we got a gun. We got a little pew-pew action in Kira's hands. Second masterpiece. My man is drawing Sabine's masterpieces like it's their job. So now we've switched to the Air Force. That looks like a Sabine unit, I guess. But either way, it's the ground pound plan versus the Air Force. So we can get pings off of the Sabine's masterpiece, and Sabine player is ahead in damage, but without ECL, you need to find a timely to try and get there. All right, so there's the plane Wrecker. Are we going to blow up Kira? Yeah, so I'm guessing Kira was naming the K2, given the way that things played out. We are going to blow up the Kira. Unlocks K2 as well as preventing damage. It's the largest damage dealer that was on the board. We get a Falcon. So Falcon's going to ping the masterpiece. Oh, we're going to ping the Green Squad. I think they were trying to figure out whether they untapped the Sabine, which they didn't. So that's why. So the ping goes down on Green Squad. That's going to force the masterpiece to go in, but opens up the Green Squad to just die to the whatever the next play is. There's 3 resources up. I think you still have to attack with the masterpiece. And we're going to trade with the Falcon. Okay. That means that our Quinlan player, if they have another 3-cost unit, can mop up the entire board and be ahead on the board. So you play the 3 costs, you ping the Green Squad, and then you send the other 2 guys into Wrecker. I don't know if that's actually where you want to be, but there was the potential. But instead, we're going base. Does that mean you don't have another play? Force throw targeting themselves to slam Han into the Wrecker. Fair. Oh, I thought we were scooping it up for a second. I'm like, you're not dead. It's not that dire straits. You are at 16, and that's not the place you want to be. That's a Kira. Second for a cause. Yikes. For a cause, K2 Green Squad. So K2 Green Squad are coming down this turn, presumably. Now, Sabine's at 13. I'm pretty sure that's a 3. So that puts you at 19, which means that you are at risk of just getting surprise striked into oblivion. What do you name here? I think you name the K2. It's got to be K2 or for a cause, right? I can't imagine it's anything else. All right, so it's for a cause. Uh-oh. Apparently you made the wrong choice. That is a timely to kill the Sabine overwhelm for 1. So you're at 17. You're technically at 20 because K2 can just get in there whenever. I think, I think I would have named the K2, but then again, they could play the K2 next turn, and like this turn, A-Wing Fasibi isn't terrible. And the timely is a problem. So our Sabine player's at 19. That's, what do we say, 17? 21? Do they have the surprise strike? No surprise strike. Yikes. There's the Fasibi. Oh, that's a medal ceremony. I thought that was a confiscate for a second. I'm like, oh my god. Wait, that's not lethal, is it? Hold on, wait. How much damage is on base? Because there was a Darksaber in there. Well, they're at 21. Ufasibi. Hero, hero, hero. I think that's a Darksaber. So Quinlan takes it? After all that, Quinlan won? It was a Darksaber? Oh my god. Like, I am correct there that the Quinlan won. Okay, yes, the Quinlan did win, rather, yes. I responded to your chat comments, John. I'm going to leave it in the video when I put it up on YouTube. Because I think a lot of people probably feel the same way you do about the meta. I don't think it's an invalid, like, it's not an incorrect way to look at it. I just, like, the too long didn't watch is, like, I understand if people don't like it. It doesn't bother me. It will bother me if I don't like the relationships between these decks. But it doesn't bother me that it's a repeat meta. Oh, by the way, we get Shadowed Hover Tank here. Hold, please. Now I'm never going to get back to the right spot. Shit. Did I? Oh, God. I don't know what timestamp I was at. I think I clicked too far. Mace in the board. Greedo's in the board. Cunning in the board. By the way, there was a Vader that was running, Vader Yellow that was running Cunning. And I'm like, that actually is kind of spicy. Shadowed Hover Tank, huh? It's presumably for this matchup. Because it was played a little bit in Django, specifically for Sabine. I think people said it was also for Han, too, because it can kill X5s cleanly. So, like, you could TDR it. Obviously not a thing any longer. Yeah, this is part of the reason why I was worried. I'm like, wait a minute, was that a confiscate, but it was a medal ceremony? And it just, because of the foiling. Why do I have so many fucking pings in Discord? I should probably leave that server, just because, like, I keep getting pings from it, but it's never anything that matters to me. Anyway, going into game 2. That was a very close game. And so far, I'm like, oh, for forever. Well, no, I was wrong on the first two as far as, like, I didn't pick a winner, but it's like, this should be favored in this matchup, and then that deck lost. I did say Quinlan should be favored into Anakin, so we're 1 and 2. We'll see if we can. Right now, I said Sabine, so maybe it's the caster's curse. I'm jinxing everybody. Dude, I was talking to somebody earlier. Chat is a gold mine for comedy. As long as you can go in with the right frame of mind, chat is like a gold mine. So turn 1 was uneventful. We got a gorilla soldier coming down. Cassian is the answer. Just plain Cassian. We're not going to ECL here, which I think is correct. But this does put our Sabine player on the back foot. As mentioned, I think Quinlan is the aggro on this matchup. All right, Fleet Lieutenant. Playing a little bit of control as Sabine, but we are going to get the Sabine deploy this turn. Oh, we ECL'd. Okay. So we ECL the Fleet Lieutenant, still allows damage to be pushed, and the Sabine's going to deploy. That's actually pretty cool. You don't see this very often anymore. It was something that was maybe I don't want to say a set one special, because it's obviously happened between now and then, but, you know. All right, the Cassian comes out to ping. That's going to remove the fleet. Greedo comes in, but damage is now getting pressed, and you need Surprise Strike, you need guns, because both of these are 5 health targets. Sabine missing turn 1 both games is like the worst possible scenario. I disagree. So we're going to go into Cassian, we whiff. Rebel Assault, that's a card you want to see as Sabine. That's a card you want to see as Sabine. Push an enormous amount of damage. And all of a sudden, Quinlan's at 18. Now, you can hypothetically clean this up as the Quinlan player. The CB. Now you're at the point where, like, I can't kill Sabine Leader because I die. But if I don't kill Sabine Leader, I die. So you take 4, you're going to 22. Right? Yes. You're not dead if you'd kill the Sabine Leader. But you're not happy about this. All right, Quinlan is going to race, apparently. Arkentown. Do we have the Plo Koon? We have the hover tank. Okay. This suddenly looks bad for the Sabine, unless they happen to have a second Fasibi or something. Without, I mean, you could timely something, like a timely Poe, because you can't timely Wrecker. We do have a Wrecker to blow up the tank. All right. Wrecker doing Wrecker things. A gun or a surprise strike means that Sabine is dead. But if you don't kill her, you're dead. I guess you could have another tank. And don't get me wrong, if you whiff turn 1 as Sabine, you're not necessarily thrilled, but or if you go pass, because it does get into this sort of scenario, but yeah. You're fine if it happens. Maybe I guess you could say you love it because like, this situation favors you ultimately. We have a Bamboozle to tap the Sabine. Clearly no answer right now. So now you got to find a way to remove both of those threats. And it looks like you didn't. So we're going to move on. We're going to move on. We're going to go to game 3. I keep saying it, but Rebel Assault is the card that's potentially a problem. And what's funny is there's 2 other Rebel Assaults. There's a neutral one and there's a green one. And then there's other variants where it's like attack with a space, attack with a whatever. I don't remember what the difference between the green and neutral one are. So I think they both just attack with a unit. Or attack with 2 units and whatever. One at a time. I don't remember. However, the bottom line is that Rebel Assault, I mean, you're not going to play either of those over Rebel Assault, but other decks are not using it, so maybe it's just the damage buff that puts it ahead. I mean, clearly that's what puts it ahead of those, but like, if no other deck wants that effect, are we overrating it? The action condensing? And it is just the fact that it's the combination of the action condense and the buff? I don't know. But the fact that it exists is kind of an interesting thing. All right, so our Sabine player did not mulligan. Looks like Quinlan did. I will say that I did put Sabine in the potential, like, not that it was going to get banned with the Django cycle, but that it would not be unreasonable to ban it. I had a very long ban list, personally. I had, like, 20 cards. And things that people would absolutely flip out about. So Sabine pings, we pass, blah, blah, blah. We go on to turn 2. Get the ping. This is looking very familiar. So we're actually getting the ECL and trading bases. I still don't like... So the general game plan here for the Sabine player is in line with what I would typically do. But I don't like the burning of the ECL this early. But I do understand why. Like, this makes sense. Are we going for a Darksaber line? They can still bamboozle you. So, like, this is brutal if they have the boozle. Really? So just 3 damage straight up on Sabine. And flood the board. Okay. Okay. Because if they take time to kill the Sabine, which they probably will, you're still getting in the other lanes. It's just the... I'm telling you, it's bothering me, the I don't want to say frivolous, but the flagrant use of ECL. But either way, Sabine gets in. Sabine unit. So putting Quinlan at 11. That, I guess, Sabine unit? I can't tell what that is. Notably, I didn't take notice of whether there are any 1-drops in the... Ooh, Timely, not ECL, but there is an ambush. A Timelied Sundari. I imagine that played into the early ECL usage. I have to imagine there's a claim from Sabine here. So we're going to clean up the Sundari. Makes sense. We're only going to get 3 damage out of the existing board state for the Sabine player because whichever lane you pick, the other lane's going to get cleaned up. This is suddenly looking dicey for the Sabine player. Like, you wanted a Darksaber on that turn. You wanted some other big threat. Unless you have another Timely, which is entirely possible. Again, you don't really want to be running the discard into Sabine, so you can kind of bank on having those tech cards as the Sabine player. It's unlikely that the Quinlan player is going to take time off to spark you. They might on, like, this turn. That's a Rebel Assault. Yikes. 19? Oof. 20 with the Sabine. We haven't seen a For a Cause. Still 5 resources left. Oh yeah, Greedo was in... I see a chat pointing it out. Greedo was in the board. The second Timely. Sabine's masterpiece. Okay, so it was a Greedo, not a Sabine back there. Wait, didn't they ping the A-Wing off of that? They must not have. Yikes. All of a sudden, like, okay, if you hit both Timelies, that's pretty good. Clearly, here's the thing. A lot of people will go, oh, they drew everything they needed, which, yes, They drew cards they needed. However, A, you put them in the deck for a reason. B, you play specific lines because you have access to or you are anticipating or playing to certain cards. So if they had 2 timelies and knew they had 2 timelies, you're going to play the sequences out specific ways. So like I was surprised at the early ECL usage and these things, but if you were mapping out your turns such that you know you're going to timely later on, it's fine. Like it makes sense. So we're going to 20. That is potentially lethal in 2 actions next turn, either because of stuff on the board, because of Fasibi, because of the ping, because of all of the above, whatever it happens to be. Our Quinlan players in a tough spot. I mean, there's no more timelies. Although our Quinlan player may not know that because it's, you saw the deck list, but do you remember exactly how many were there? Oh, heroic sack for the 5. G. Well played. Well played. Honestly, there's the Kylo. Kylo came in at the end. This was interesting. I think there were a lot of well-executed decisions. Especially because, as we were discussing earlier, if we're going to have a repeat meta where everything is basically the same. And what's funny is so here's the other thing to add. Early on, people were, before everyone realized, oh shit, TDR Django is bonkers. Like, everyone was saying, well, it's the same meta over again. Everything is still the same. And what really changed then if Django dropped out? You know what I mean? All of those things are still going to be true. And I don't care. I didn't like the set 3 meta. But I did find decks that I like now. I actually expect repeat metas in games, fundamentals to never change. I think it's healthy to have, like, Sabine has been around since set 1. Han decks have been around since set 1. Quinlan's a set 3 deck. Anakin's a set 3 deck. What else do we see? Kira's a set 2 deck. It's important to have decks that are old still be viable later so that you don't have to go, oh, your old cards don't matter every set. I think that's a problem. That's the Yu-Gi-Oh methodology of power creeping things, which you can do, especially with rotation. You could then reset the power level when things rotate and, like, well, sort of. It depends. It gets weird. But the bottom line is that I think it's fine that these decks are around. I can understand people being sick of it. I can understand people being tired of it, and you could certainly have more changes than we are seeing now. But the sense I get from the FFG team, the way they've designed things and the way they've been behaving, the way they've been reacting, is like they had a pretty significant shift in what they want to do and how they do it. So we'll see. We do have another stream coming up, but I am going to swap over. So I'm going to stop the stream so I have a set video for this and then start the stream again. So I'll be back in a few minutes. But as always, everybody, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And tune in next time for more Random Thoughts.